Good afternoon. About 300 years ago, back in the Edo era, people in Japan used to live in townhouses known as nagaya. Up to 12 families lived under the same roof, with each family occupying very small spaces of about 10 square meters. There was a lot of sharing happening. People shared resources, such as miso and soy sauce. And they also congregated around the well to share information and to socialize. It basically acted like a big family where they looked after each other and took care of children and seniors. So in a way, this concept of mutual aid and sharing is embedded in Japanese culture and heritage. Let's take a moment now to think about what sharing actually means. According to the Oxford Dictionary, one definition of the verb to share is to use, occupy, or enjoy something jointly with another or others. That means for sharing to take place, there needs to be something to share, someone to share with, and also some kind of interaction happening so that the two people can share. Now, while there's certainly many things that we can share, today I'd like to focus on one resource that we're all familiar with: cars. Just a few decades ago, owning a car used to be a status symbol. It used to be a luxury to be able to go from point A to point B at your convenience. But as urbanization accelerated and people wanted to own more things, that started to change. Cars became more affordable, meaning people were buying more cars. In fact, in 1976, there was one car for every 2 households. And in the 20 subsequent years, that doubled, so that there was one car per household. So this era of mass production and mass consumption put 60 million cars on the road today in Japan. It's a lot of cars. But did you know that cars are not very much utilized as an asset? 96% of the time, cars are sitting idle, parked in a parking lot or elsewhere. So if you do the math, 58 million cars are sitting idle right this second, right in Japan. That's a lot of cars. And I'm not here just to talk about cars. I'm here to talk about mobility and the future of mobility, and potentially using these 58 million cars to serve those in need. Let me share a little bit about the situation in my family. Here are my 2 grandmothers. Both are almost 90 years old. Unfortunately, couldn't be here today. And they lived on their own until very recently. Neither of them drove, and so it was up to my mother to take them places, to take them to the supermarket a few times a week, to take them to the hospital, and just to go out with them. So in essence, there was sharing happening within my family. And thanks to that, both my grandmothers had the mobility to go places. And also my mother got to spend time with them and interact. So while this is all great, it was a lot to rely on one person to provide transportation to 2 people. It's almost a full-time job. Not to mention that there were times when my mother couldn't take them places, even if she wanted to, because there were other things to attend to. My family is not that unique in terms of the setup. There are a lot of other families in Japan that face similar challenges, but some have it worse. There are actually 7 million seniors in Japan that are underserved by reliable transportation to buy their daily needs. They're called kaimonojakusha in Japanese. 7 million people is almost the number of people that live in Hong Kong. It's a lot of people. Right? So while Japan is known to have great transportation, there are a lot of people that are not being served that can't go out when they want to. And then there are others that drive. Maybe they drive not because they want to, but because they have to. And for those people, it's a different issue. They're getting involved in more and more accidents. So while the overall number of accidents are coming down, in Tokyo, for example, more than 1 in 5 accidents that happen, traffic accidents that happen, involve a senior citizen. And maybe these are people that should no longer be driving, but have to drive because there's no other way to get around. So if we can create a solution for these people, it could be a game changer for the seniors in Japan. And the joy I get from doing my job at Uber is that we get to apply technology to try to tackle really, really hard problems that people thought were not solvable. And I have the joy of doing that in my native country. So just recently, we started a new service in the city of Kyotango in Kyoto Prefecture. We're serving an area called Tangocho, which is inhabited by about 6,000 people, of whom 40% are over the age of 65. It's what's known as an underserved area. There's not good transportation. So the buses only run a few times a day, and the taxi company that used to operate there abandoned the area about 8 years ago for financial reasons. So what we began in collaboration with a local nonprofit organization is a service that we call Sasayai Kotsu, which literally translates to mutual aid transportation. So it's a very simple concept. It's about neighbors giving other neighbors a ride or visitors a ride when they come. So that's the concept that we began very recently. There are 18 people, 18 residents of the town registered as drivers. So when they have some free time, all they need to do is to push a button on their app, and they become available as drivers. And when their neighbor or when a visitor wants a ride, all they need to do is open the app and push a button on their end. And then the request goes to the nearest available driver. So it's Uber like you know it. It works like in every other city where Uber operates. Our first riders were tourists from Singapore, as well as this woman here, Azuma-san, a 80-plus-year-old woman that used to be a school teacher. And to her surprise, her first driver was actually her student from 35 years ago. So as this story kind of illustrates, Sasayai Kotsu is just an extension of what people in places like Kyotango have done. They're helping each other, giving each other rides. But with the use of technology, we make that a lot more efficient, a lot more transparent, and a lot safer. Because each trip that happens on the Uber platform is recorded. And also, after each trip, we ask the rider and driver to rate each other. And also, it makes it a little bit less awkward because the platform allows for a cashless reimbursement of costs. So before all this happened, the people of Tangocho had to adjust their lives to the inefficient transportation network that existed in the town. And because of that, people went out less, which meant people consumed less. And as a result, a lot of the stores and the shops in the local community have had to close down. And Tangocho is not an exception in Japan. In fact, there are hundreds of other municipalities that are facing similar challenges with a decreasing population and an aging population. So we have the privilege of working with some of them right now to try to figure out a sustainable and lasting solution in these areas, leveraging technology and embracing the concept of sharing. And what better place to do this than in Japan, which has the world's highest proportion of senior citizens? If we can find a solution in Japan, if we can crack this here, that could become a model for hundreds, if not thousands, of other cities around the world. So what I'm talking about today is not that radical an idea. It's just a different way of seeing things. And it's about a concept that doesn't require additional investments or taxpayers' money. Because it's about putting the things that are already out there, the millions of cars, and the roads that have been built over time, to better use. So it's about taking the time right now to think about what the future could look like and should look like. So if we can modernize the concept of the Nagaya and apply it to different social problems, such as transportation in Japan, Japan has an opportunity to create a lasting solution for its people, among them, its millions of senior citizens. Thank you.